Good morning. It's Tuesday, February 11th. And this morning I want to talk about a subject that I normally avoid because it has Israel in the center of it. And because I am a Jew, there will be many people out there that think I'm prejudiced in favor of that nation, which is probably 100% true. But the actions that they take for the most part, I agree with. I don't agree with everything they do. But I am particularly disturbed when they are being treated the same way that the Hamas terrorists are being treated. And I say that because the British broadcasting system compares the Jews who were held hostage by Hamas to the Hamas terrorists that Israel had in their prisons. And you all know there's a ceasefire and Israel is releasing those terrorists. And so they have come under scrutiny because of this entire situation. And the BBC, the British Broadcasting System, has said some things that were not appropriate. Israel is a democracy, and its president stands up for that and castigates the British Broadcasting Company, accusing them of drawing an outrageous false equivalence between Israeli hostages and convicted Hamas terrorists who were in jail in Israel. Now, you know, right now, as part of this truce, prisoners are being released from the jails on both sides. But the release is ridiculously out of proportion because I bet you that Hamas is releasing 1/10 of the personnel as to the amount that Israel is releasing during this episode. And the Israeli president, Isaac Herzog, was on the BBC radio or television and criticized the BBC because of its coverage in the ongoing Gaza hostage deal. Because he, or the broadcaster, or the BBC themselves, were equating Israeli captives with Palestinian terrorists. Herzog said that the outlet falsely suggested Israel mistreated convicted terrorists, and he drew a false equivalence between the terrorists freed by Israel during the ceasefire with the Israeli hostages who were held by the terror group. Absolutely rejecting that, he said. I think that this equality that the British broadcasting system is always trying to make is outrageous and preposterous and absolutely not true. So you see, the BBC probably, in its own thinking, is that they cannot come out and say certain things in favor of Israel because the audience that they are talking to was probably prejudiced, and that if the BBC shows any leaning in favor of Israel, they can lose audience, perhaps. And then when the Israeli president has to tell them that Israel is a democracy and we abide by the rule of law, and all the prisoners in Israel get whatever is necessary as prisoners under the law, under the supervision of the court. Even a Supreme Court justice has visited the prisons to ensure that those prisoners that we were holding were treated properly. And not only that, some of the prisoners, the Palestinians, didn't want to leave our prisons. They didn't want to go back to the hellhole. They did not want to go back to Gaza. They would rather stay in the Israeli prisons. That tells you something. That tells you something about people who are willing to put their lives on the line in the beginning. Learn something being in prison in Israel. So, we see that the BBC, in its prejudiced reporting, is doing what most of the world is doing. Not giving Israel the true picture that it deserves. It's a tiny nation surrounded on all sides by enemies who would like to destroy it and openly admit they're going to destroy it. And yet, the Israelis behave in a manner that other nations should watch because they are doing things that civilized countries do. And that should be appreciated by the rest of the world, considering the amount of stress that Israel faces every single day of its existence. So shame on the BBC for reporting the way they did. And let's hope that all of the Israeli hostages come home relatively healthy. I hope I haven't disturbed most of you out there. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.